Bring some joy to your world at Timpy Kia's Light Up the Holidays sales event. Rock around in a new 2019 Kia Soul for $12,872. Giddy up in a new 2019 Kia Sportage for only $19,987. Or fly off in a new 2019 Kia Sorento for $21,989. Click here to unwrap your new Kia and hurry down to Timpy Kia's Light Up the Holidays sales event. Timpy Kia, making car buying fun again on Elliott and I-10.
Hi, and welcome to the Beyond Gender podcast.
The place for transgender and gender variant stories and news. We're your hosts,
Caleb Arrrrrring
and Dorian Rendon.
Join us every other week as we interview people about their experiences with trans identity and gender variance.
And be sure to give us your feedback on Twitter at BeyondGenderPod.
On Facebook at www.facebook.com/BeyondGenderPod or email us beyondgenderpod@gmail.com.
And check out our website, www.beyondgenderpod.com, for resources and more info about us and the show.
And if you love the show, give us 5 stars on iTunes.
Feel free to share, comment, or get in touch with us, even to be a guest if you'd like. Thanks for listening. Hello again, Dorian Rendon back with Beyond Gender Intro. I am back this week hosting, as I sometimes do, with a guest, Sophie Labelle. We sat down at 1 in 10 in Phoenix, Arizona's LGBTQ youth group. So, we did talk about her U.S. tour, what she plans on doing afterwards, and a bit about her comic, Assigned Male. We will have news with Caleb Arrrrrring, who I have been informed might be in my area and might be able to meet up with me for the first time in a couple of years of knowing each other. So, the end of 2018 is looking good. But looking back, it has had its highs and lows. We have seen a military ban have pushback from a community with growing allyship, and entertainment industry just standing up saying nothing about us without us, and in politics, basically just raising our voices up and inspiring other generations to do the same. It has been a good year of meeting new and interesting people, myself, such as our guest Brianna Westbrook, Dharma Kelleher, just to name a few. Getting to know them has been one of the highlights of my year. Here at the Rendon House, we did have a good holiday season. We had drones, guitars, and lots of chocolates. One of the happiest things I got was one of those little tile trackers in which I put on our cat Nero. So now I don't have to worry about if he's run away again, which he likes to do at night. But we do have an interesting episode ahead of us, but let's get into our news with Caleb Arrrrrring.
Dorian Rendon here with the Beyond News section. Wait, that's not right. Caleb Arrrrrring here bringing you the news on Beyond Gender as Dorian and I switch places today. First up in the news, Twitter has banned misgendering and dead naming on its platform as they make an effort to curtail anti-trans abuse. Twitter recognizes that some people are using social media to spew hateful things and to degrade other people, including misgendering and dead naming trans people. Twitter has said that if people have too many violations of this rule, or if they are using their account primarily to be abusive to others, that they will be permanently banned from using Twitter. In other news, the Trump administration continues to try to block transgender people from serving in the U.S. military. However, a federal judge in the U.S. District Court of the District of Columbia recently denied a request that would have temporarily prohibited transgender people from serving in the military. The judge stated that without any evidence that the military would somehow be harmed or that there would be a threat to military readiness if transgender people were permitted to continue serving in the armed forces, that the court did not feel that they could approve the ban that the Trump administration is requesting. A pastor in New Orleans is under arrest after pulling a gun on a transgender sex worker, Courtney Smalls. Smalls stated that she had been invited into the pastor Wilfred Brown's car, and when he realized that she was a transgender woman, he became irate and began chasing her down the street at gunpoint. The police later approached Brown's vehicle, which he left parked and was still in it, despite the fact that there was an open condom wrapper outside his parked car. His pants were unzipped, and he had a bottle of Viagra in his back pocket. He insisted that he had picked Smalls up to offer her a ride home because it was cold outside. He is now under arrest and will be facing charges. The Chicago Transit Authority will now include gender reassignment surgery in their healthcare coverage. This is a new development. After reviewing their healthcare plan, they've decided to extend it and stated that this change in their healthcare policy keeps in line with their broader effort towards inclusion and diversity. Indiana is one of only 5 states without a hate crimes law, and generally, including LGBTQ people has always stopped past attempts to pass it. Right now, Indiana is looking at passing a new hate crimes law, and Republican Governor Eric Holcomb of Indiana is pushing to ensure that LGBTQ people are included in this new hate crimes law. Out magazine has been in publication for 26 years, and for the first time they have a transgender woman taking on a leadership position. Raquel Willis was recently appointed the executive editor at Out magazine. Prior to taking this position, she's done many amazing things, including being part of the Black Lives Matter movement and also working as a communications associate for the Transgender Law Center. She just recently started her new position with Out magazine as the executive editor. And that is all for the news today on the Beyond Gender podcast. In just a moment, we will be heading back over to Dorian for today's interview. Today's episode of the Beyond Gender podcast is brought to you by Audible. If you're the type of person who enjoys listening to podcasts, you're probably also the type of person who would love to listen to your books on audio. The best and easiest way to get audiobooks is through Audible. You can download them straight to your phone, or listen to them over the cloud on your phone, listen to them on your computer, and lots of other places. You can take them with you on the go, just like you do with your podcasts. Right now, Audible is giving a special deal to Beyond Gender listeners. If you sign up for an Audible membership, you can get your first book for free. And if you decide that you don't like Audible, you can always cancel. So you get one book for free just for being a Beyond Gender listener. And today, you can go get that by going to www.audibletrial.com/beyond. Again, That's www.audibletrial.com/beyond. Go start your free trial and get your first free book right now. On today's episode, I am still on a big high from being at Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny. So today I'm going to be recommending, again, Tony Robbins' book, Awaken the Giant Within. That's Awaken the Giant Within. It's by Tony Robbins, an amazing read, and you can get that for free on audiobook by going to audibletrial.com/beyond. That's audibletrial.com/beyond. And if you prefer to read the book rather than have an audiobook, there's also a link to the book in the show notes. But if you want to get your free audio copy of Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within, or any other of the many, many, many books available on Audible, you can go to audibletrial.com/beyond and get your free audiobook.
Today on the show, we do have Sophie Labelle. Yay! Sophie is on an American tour right now. You've been on tour for how long?
3 months and a half now.
Okay. And how do you feel your tour is going? You're stopped here in Phoenix right now, but just got a little bit left.
A little bit. Oh my God, I only have one event left, so the tour is going to end in less than 48 hours. I'm very excited, but also every tour is kind of, surreal. It's always so weird to just meet people outside of the internet. Mm-hmm. Being a webcomic artist, it's the work I do is kind of untangible sometimes, and it feels like the harassment that I get gets so intense sometimes that you forget that there's actual people who care about my work. Mm-hmm. So it's been going amazingly well. It surpassed all of my expectations as well. Most events were huge successes, and I only have great things that came out of that tour. Also had the occasion to visit places, that I've only heard about in movies. It's kind of funny to tour in that sense, because I'm not much of a tourist. If I don't have a reason to go somewhere, I won't go out of my way to do it. And also, I have weird habits when I travel, and I'm still working while I do this tour. So in the sense that
that doesn't stop for you.
I'm still drawing my webcomic regularly. I'm also working on a novel and children's books. And so I do all this work while I'm traveling. And so if I didn't have any reasons to get out of my hotel room, I would just stay there and drink coffee, Yeah. It's always fun to be able to leave the house and explore places and meet the people from different trans communities across the country.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, because you've been to a couple of different countries, things like that. How are the trans communities in the U.S. like compared to each other, or compared to other ones you've seen, in your travels?
I think the you can categorize the groups I've seen in two groups, I guess, because what I find here is very similar to what we see in Canada or Australia, which is trans communities that are centered around urban spaces, and that rarely shares much in terms of resources or elbow grease and for activism and organizing. Usually it's centered around a city, it's centered around an area, while if I take, for example, in Europe or in many places in Asia, there's much more exchanges going on because transportation helps, being able to take a train, a fast train to the next city is something that's not a reality here. So So yeah, people, if people don't have a car or don't drive, then usually the activism is centered around one city, which kind of makes it toxic in several aspects. You know, because you're kind of more often stuck to work here with the rest of your community, and that creates a lot of tension. That's what I see a lot in countries like the United States, but also Canada, where I'm from, or Australia, because the distance between the cities is so big, and there's no easy way to get around with transit.
Yeah. Like here in Phoenix, we just got like a light rail, so it's been better at getting around and stuff like that. But, you know, before that, it was just like, well, you're stuck kind of where you are. You have to make friends where you are. You have to do what you want to do where you are.
And that creates a lot of drama within activist community, between LGBT groups. And that's something I mostly see here.
Okay. All right. So, going along with that, like, what are some of the differences in the trans communities that you've seen, like, as far as, like, the diversity, like, within, like, people? Like, because you write about not only, like, able-bodied people, but non-able-bodied people, autistic people that are on the spectrum, not on the spectrum, you know, and you even throw in a couple cis characters. I think they're cis. Don't spoil it for me. I haven't gotten to the end. I think they're cis. The token cis characters are in there. But you see a lot of diversity in your characters. Are you seeing that represented in your audience as well, like coming out?
Definitely. I mean, just in terms of the ages of my audience, you know, I have little kids and people that are over 70.
Really?
Yeah, they all come to my events, and it's just so nice to see all these people coming together to just, you know, hear me talk about my terrible anecdotes. And it's been great, but of course, you know, I only see a part of it. It's not representative of trans communities themselves, of course, because my audience only touches.
It's more representative of your audience than it is the trans community itself.
Of course.
Because I know people that didn't come, but, like, knew of you and stuff like that. So, you know, it's just interesting to see, like, who comes out for it and things like that, and the representation that is coming back at you, you know? So, well, who do you maybe look up to in the trans community as far as, like, anyone that's visible, activist, or just maybe likes to write blogs or anything like that? What kind of inspiration do you come across, like, that you've been like, oh, I really like that, and you kind of keep it along with you?
Well, I like a lot of grassroots trans artists, you know, who do their work independently. I mean, like I do, but on a bigger scale. So there's several artists that I follow in different parts of the world. I spend most of my free time in Europe because that's where my boyfriend lives. So I enjoy working with them a lot as well, and I get a lot of inspiration from working with these people. So, I mean, I could name a bunch to you, but for the sake of your listeners, I could point out to this coloring book we made with a dozen of trans artists from all around the world. It's called "Add Your Own Colors to the Rainbow." So if you look it up, you know, you'll see all the list of other artists that I really look up to and with who I worked to get this book out. So that's a lot of them. But mostly independent trans artists.
Okay. So, on your tour, you've mentioned that you're a teacher in a cartoonist body, or is it a cartoonist in a teacher's body as well?
Yes. It's a joke that's been going around.
So I know you've gotten that out, but do you find that your time teaching has helped your talking to your audience as far as your cartoons?
Oh, definitely. I'm not sure I would be doing these tours or standing on a stage if I didn't have the experience of, working with children a lot. There was a teaching experience, but, I've been working with children since I was a child myself. I started babysitting when I was a teenager, and I've been working, doing after-school programs, and I became a camp counselor when I was 16, and it's always been part of my life, and it really fed into my passion for the stage as well. Being a theater kid, mostly staying in the back though. I liked the backstage, doing screenwriting and stuff like that, but it definitely helps with just talking to my audience, which is something that not a lot of cartoonists will be at ease doing. A lot of us are just huge introverts. I am a huge introvert, but on a stage, I feel more comfortable than just speaking to an audience in general. It helps to just entertain an audience like I did with the classes that I taught.
And may I ask, what were the ages of the kids that you taught? Because you kind of tend to express with your cartoons and comics and novels, and the teenagers, younger kids. Was that what your audience was before?
Elementary, yeah.
Elementary? Okay. All right, so that makes a little bit of sense that you're kind of coming from that area as well of talking and relating kids and stuff like that. So that's really interesting. Do you find that your work is more creative or reactionary to the world? Are you creating a world that you are just talking about, or is it you're taking in the world and you're giving your views on it through your characters?
Well, when I started Assign Mail, it was mostly to vent. I had a lot of stuff I needed to vent about, but it quickly changed into something else. Something in which I could express myself in ways that were relatable for a lot of people, I think. So I guess it's a mix of both. Okay. Sometimes I do write a lot of reactionary comics, in the sense that I'll react to the news. It's gonna be about something that's in the current course of events, and but at the same time, it's mostly for the webcomic, because I write children's books and novels as well that are longer stories, and in which I'll express myself in ways that are more creative, I guess. Okay. And I need both. I definitely need both to feel like I've been expressing myself in ways that were comfortable for me, and yeah, I'd say both.
It's a little bit of mix of both. Okay. So there is a little bit of fandom to your stickers, and I have heard, but I would like to share with the audience, where's the most interesting place that you've seen your sticker out in the wild?
Well, sometimes I've been traveling a lot, with my tours, and so I've seen some of my stickers on street poles and street lights and stuff like that. Sometimes people send me pictures of places they saw my stickers on, so it's always interesting to see how far these little indie things go. So I just love it. If you see them, send me pictures. But I'll always remember when the Danish Girl came out, and there was this sticker that people started putting on the posters in the Paris subway.
Oh, in the Paris subway?
Yes, that was beautiful.
Oh. So maybe just wrapping up a little bit, you're about ready to get done with your tour. I know you're looking forward to bed. But what do you have as far as like right after you wake up from bed? Anything like, are you going to take some self-care time? Are you going to keep working hard? Any new tours coming up?
Well, when I announced my U.S. tour, people in Canada were like, well, what about the Canadian tour? And then I told them, well, I'm Canadian. I can go wherever you want me to go anytime. But people really wanted a Canadian tour, so I'm doing a small Canadian tour right after, just because people were jealous of the U.S. tour.
Oh, okay.
So that's only a 2-month tour.
Mm-hmm.
That's already a lot, physically speaking. But after that, I really want to cycle more next year.
Yeah.
I spent the summer on my bicycle like I do almost every year. But next year, I'd like to take it a step further. When I was 21, I spent an entire year on my bicycle, and I kind of missed that.
I spent most of my 20s on a bicycle, too.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's so cool. Let's talk about it when we're done recording.
Okay. And lastly, because I don't know if you've ever heard of our podcast, but we have one question that we do like to ask all of our guests. And it is, if there's someone younger listening to this right now, what kind of advice would you give them, whether it be cartoonist-wise, trans-wise, whatever? Like, what kind of advice do you hold?
Well, cartoonist-wise, just don't be afraid of like putting your work out there and getting people to see it. I waited years just because I felt like my art wasn't good enough to be seen by other people, but that really made me I was really stuck with my art, and really having an audience helped me go across that. And yeah, I don't think I've moved forward as an artist as much as I've been doing since I've been creating a sign mail. So yeah, put yourself out there. Don't be shy. Do it.
Just do it. Okay. Well, Sophie Labelle, thank you very much for your time.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right.
I hope you enjoyed today's brand new episode of the Beyond Gender podcast with Dorian hosting our interview. We will be back in 2019. We've got a lot of great interviews already recorded and ready to send out to you in 2019. Lots of amazing things lined up for you. We are super, super excited to celebrate the new year with you and with all of the amazing people who we have already interviewed for next year's episodes and who we will be interviewing. So stay tuned. Come back in 2 weeks for a brand new episode of the Beyond Gender podcast. Today's episode of the Beyond Gender podcast is brought to you by Audible. If you're the type of person who enjoys listening to podcasts, you're probably also the type of person who would love to listen to your books on audio. The best and easiest way to get audiobooks is through Audible. You can download them straight to your phone, or listen to them over the cloud on your phone, listen to them on your computer, and lots of other places. You can take them with you on the go, just like you do with your podcasts. Right now, Audible is giving a special deal to Beyond Gender listeners. If you sign up for an Audible membership, you can get your first book for free. And if you decide that you don't like Audible, you can always cancel. So you get one book for free just for being a Beyond Gender listener. And today, you can go get that by going to www.audibletrial.com/beyond. Again, that's www.audibletrial.com/beyond. Sophie.com/beyond. Go start your free trial and get your first free book right now. On today's episode, I am still on a big high from being at Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny. So today I'm going to be recommending, again, Tony Robbins' book, Awaken the Giant Within. That's Awaken the Giant Within. It's by Tony Robbins, an amazing read, and you can get that for free on audiobook by going to audibletrial.com/beyond. That's audibletrial.com/beyond. And if you prefer to read the book rather than have an audiobook, there's also a link to the book in the show notes. But if you want to get your free audio copy of Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within, or any other of the many, many, many books available on Audible, you can go to audibletrial.com/beyond and get your free audiobook. Thanks again for listening to another great episode of the Beyond Gender podcast. We will be back here again in 2 weeks with another brand new story to tell.
If you want to learn more about news or the people and projects we spoke about, check out beyondgenderpod.com as always.
Give us your thoughts and feedback on Twitter at BeyondGenderPod or Facebook, www.facebook.com/BeyondGenderPod.
Or email us at beyondgenderpod@gmail.com.
Thank you to Matt Van Horn for mixing and editing, and Marissa McCool for producing.
Broke for Free for our music, and of course, Lux for our artwork.
Dorian Brendan for news, production, and the occasional host slot.
And our producer and host with the most, Caleb Arrrrrrring. Did I do that right?
Bring some joy to your world at Tempe Kia's Light Up the Holidays sales event. Rock around in a new 2019 Kia Soul for $12,872. Giddy up in a new 2019 Kia Sportage for only $19,987. Or fly off in a new 2019 Kia Sorento for $21,989. Click here to unwrap your new Kia and hurry down to Tempe Kia's Light Up the Holidays sales event. Tempe Kia, making car buying fun again on Elliott and I-10.
Ebenezer Scrooge, awake! I am the ghost of the Mercedes-Benz winter event. Your time is running out. Come, I must show you the sleek CLA. Nice, said Scrooge, but I am kind of a Scrooge. No worries, the CLA offers true Mercedes performance at a surprising price. Or check out the GLC, an SUV with the full complement of technology and performance. Give your year the happy ending it deserves at the Mercedes-Benz winter event. Now at your Mercedes-Benz dealer. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing.